If you've ever felt like your mind opens 27 tabs at once, and every tab is playing a different disaster scenario, this is for you. Because the problem is not that you think too much. It's that your brain thinks stopping is unsafe. You replay conversations from 3 days ago. You create arguments with people who aren't even in the room. You make one small mistake, and suddenly your mind turns it into a full courtroom trial. And the worst part? Even when nothing is happening, your body still feels like something is about to happen. If that hits, keep watching, because what you're experiencing is not weakness. It's a pattern. And once you understand the pattern, it gets a lot easier to interrupt. Today we're talking about overthinking. There's a well-researched reason why your mind keeps scanning, rehearsing, predicting, and replaying. And by the end of this video, you'll understand the hidden reason your brain does this, the 7 signs it has become a loop, and the one practical shift that helps you come back to yourself. This is a loop, not your personality. The first sign is that you don't think to understand. You think to control. Tiny example. Someone replies with, "Okay," and suddenly your brain starts building a whole theory. Were they mad? Was that cold? Did I say something wrong? Should I explain myself? So you replay the conversation, not because it gives you peace, but because it gives you the illusion of power. Here's the twist. The mind loves prediction because uncertainty feels threatening. When your brain cannot control the outcome, it tries to control the story. That's why thinking can feel productive, even when it's draining you. At some point in your life, being alert may have helped you avoid conflict, criticism, or disappointment. So your brain learned, if I can predict it early, I can protect myself. But now the same strategy that once protected you is keeping you stuck. The next sign is subtle, but powerful. You know this one. You're brushing your teeth, walking to class, lying in bed, and suddenly your brain pulls up a random conversation. Not the whole conversation. Just the one sentence you wish you said differently. Then comes the spiral. Why did I say it like that? Did I sound weird? Do they think I'm annoying? Would a normal person have handled that better? Most people miss this one. Replaying is often not problem solving. It's self-punishment wearing a smart disguise. Your mind is trying to prevent future embarrassment by forcing you to study past moments. But instead of learning, you start attacking yourself. This often connects to early experiences where mistakes felt bigger than they were. Maybe you were corrected harshly. Maybe silence meant someone was upset. Maybe being misunderstood felt dangerous. So now your brain treats every social moment like a test you must pass. Here's where it gets weird. You wait until you feel completely ready, completely sure, completely confident. And because that moment rarely comes, you stay frozen. You don't send the message. You don't start the project. You don't make the decision. Not because you're lazy, but because your brain keeps asking for more proof. What if this is wrong? What if I regret it? What if people judge me? Here's the psychological trap. Certainty feels like safety, but life almost never gives you 100% certainty. So your mind keeps searching for something that reality cannot provide. That search becomes exhausting. This can come from growing up in environments where one wrong move created big reactions.
No!
You learn to calculate before acting. You learn to read the room. You learn to be careful before being
Let's look around
yourself.
this room of ideas and learn
And
together.
yes, that may have made you observant. But it may also make simple choices feel emotionally expensive. Most people miss this one. A feeling shows up, and instead of feeling it, you interrogate it. Why am I sad? Why am I irritated? Why do I feel off? What does this mean? Is something wrong with me? This is where overthinking becomes sneaky. You stop experiencing your emotions and start analyzing them from a distance. But emotions are not always puzzles. Sometimes they are signals. Sometimes they are leftovers. Sometimes they are just your body asking for rest, honesty, food, space, or a real conversation. Here's the pattern interrupt. Not every feeling needs a full documentary. Sometimes it just needs a name. I feel disappointed. I feel tense. I feel left out. That is already progress. If you grew up having to justify your emotions, you may have learned that feelings need evidence before they are allowed to exist. But they don't. Feelings are not court cases. This is a loop, not your personality.
Understand the loop of behavior on the left.
The next sign
Then,
is subtle,
explore your core identity
but
here on the right.
powerful. You imagine rejection before you take a risk. You imagine failure before you begin. You imagine losing people before they even leave. And your brain says, I'm just being realistic. But sometimes, that is not realism. It's emotional self-defense. You are trying to feel the pain early so it won't surprise you later. But here's where it gets weird. Preparing for pain does not always protect you from pain. Sometimes it makes you live through it twice.
Stings. Just analyze
Once in your mind, once in real life, if it even happens at all. This pattern can come from experiences where good things felt unstable. When peace never lasted long, your brain learned to distrust calm. So when things are actually okay, your mind starts looking for the catch. The hidden belief becomes, if I expect the worst, I won't be hurt. But expecting the worst does not make you safer. It only makes the present feel dangerous. Most people miss this one. You ask someone, are we okay? They say yes. For 5 minutes, you feel calm. Then the doubt comes back. But what if they only said that to be nice? What if they're secretly annoyed? What if I pushed too hard? So you ask again. Or you check their tone. Or you scan their messages. Or you try to act extra perfect to prevent distance.
Why is this so
Here's
hard?
the twist.
I shouldn't send it.
Reassurance can soothe the surface, but it doesn't always heal the fear underneath. Because the real question is usually not, are they mad? The real question is, am I safe if someone is disappointed in me? That's a much deeper question. This can connect to early relationships where love felt unpredictable. Sometimes warm, sometimes cold, sometimes close, sometimes unavailable. So your brain learned to monitor connection like a weather app. But relationships are not meant to be controlled by constant scanning. They are meant to be built through trust, repair, and honesty. Here's where it gets weird. This one sounds responsible at first. You think, if I stop
the data indicates that the neural
myself,
network is approaching peak
I'll
efficiency.
become careless.
Prepare for the final
So
upload.
you use pressure as motivation. You review every flaw. You focus on what went wrong. You tell yourself you should be better by now. But ask yourself this, has shame actually made you peaceful? Or has it just made you tired? There's a difference between accountability and self-attack. Accountability says, I can learn from this. Self-attack says, this proves something bad about me. One helps you grow. The other keeps you trapped. If you were praised only when you performed well, stayed useful, stayed quiet, or stayed impressive, you may have learned to treat yourself like a project that is never finished. But you are not a project. You are a person. Growth does not require cruelty. It requires honesty with enough safety to actually change. The next part matters, because this is where many people misunderstand the whole pattern. Your brain is not trying to ruin your life. It is trying to protect you with old tools. That's the key. The loop usually starts with a trigger.
Let's see what we've received.
A message feels different.
Welcome,
A
and let's
memory
explore the
pops
powerful
up.
connection between our choices
A decision
and our emotions.
feels uncertain. A person's mood changes. Then your brain reads that discomfort as danger. So it starts thinking harder, scanning harder, predicting harder. But the harder you think, the more important the threat feels. And the more important it feels, the harder
Reject
it becomes
negativity.
to stop.
Let it fade away.
This is
Now,
why
breathe
just
and steady your
relax
mind.
does not work. Your brain does not need insults. It needs evidence of safety. Small evidence. Repeated evidence. A slower breath. A clear boundary. A decision made without checking it 40 times. A moment where you feel the fear and still choose your next step. That is how the loop begins to weaken. You're not broken. You're not dramatic. You're not too sensitive. And you're not failing because your mind gets loud. What
Welcome.
you're seeing
Today,
is a mechanism,
we're diving into the core principles
not
of
an
cognitive
identity. A mechanism can be understood. A mechanism can be softened. A mechanism can be changed through practice. But you cannot shame yourself out of a survival
Welcome, and I'm here to
pattern.
guide you. Together,
You
we'll
have to
navigate the
notice it
complexities of
without
mindset to
becoming
unlock your
it.
full potential.
Try this simple
Welcome.
shift.
In this section,
Instead of
we'll explore
asking,
key mindsets
why
for
am I
success.
like this? Ask, what is my brain trying to protect me from right now? That question creates distance. And distance creates choice. Maybe it's protecting you from rejection. Maybe from disappointment.
Together, we
Maybe
can find a way
from
past
being
these hurdles.
misunderstood. Maybe from making a mistake and feeling exposed. Once you can name the fear, you stop treating
Remember to apply
every
what you've
thought
learned
like a
to your daily
command.
routine.
A thought can be loud and still not be true. A feeling can be intense and still pass. A fear can be familiar and still not be the boss of you. One last thing. The goal is not to empty your mind. That's not realistic. The goal is to stop obeying every alarm. Because not every alarm is an emergency. Some alarms are old. Some alarms are exaggerated. Some alarms are connected to a version of you that had fewer tools, fewer choices, and less support.
The complex networks of our minds can
So
seem
the
overwhelming,
strongest
but by
reframe is
simplifying,
this.
we find clarity.
Your mind is not asking for more thinking. It is asking for more trust. Trust that you can handle being misunderstood. Trust that you can make a decision and adjust later. Trust that you can feel discomfort
The path
without
ahead
turning
is
it
now
into a
perfectly
full
level.
investigation.
All uncertainties begin to fade into the distance.
And trust that your peace does not have to wait until every possible outcome is solved. That is how overthinking loses power. Not by fighting every thought, but by no longer treating every thought like a threat. I've linked
Welcome.
something in the
Just tap the link
description
below
and
for more
pinned
insightful
comment
content.
that I think a lot of you will find genuinely useful. It's a bundle of simple, structured guides designed to genuinely help you slow the loop, understand your patterns, and practice calmer responses when your mind gets loud. Not magic. Not a quick fix.
Keep your focus
Just
here, and you'll see
practical
your progress
tools you
build
can
up
come
steadily,
back to
just
when
like
you need
this.
structure. Comment one word below. Luke, if this helped you see the pattern more clearly. Like this video if it gave you language for something you've been feeling. And subscribe if you want more calm, sharp psychology that helps you understand yourself without turning yourself into a problem. This video is for educational purposes and not a substitute for professional advice. This is a Luke,
Welcome.
not
I'm here
your
to guide you through your
personality.
journey.
See you there.